take it away, Marlene.
Okay, sure. My name's Marlene. We are essentially, this is a forum for us to get to know LA Angeles chapter XCOM candidates. Our format will be 2 minutes for introduction, 2 minutes per question, and 1 minute for closing. And if we have extra time, then we'll take questions from the audience. When the audience asks their questions, please make them general. And we'll get started. All right. So
and type your questions in the Q&A. You can
Right.
type them at any time, but we'll get to them towards the end.
Great. Okay. So starting off with Kobe King, you have 2 minutes to give your introduction. Sorry, caught you off guard.
You sure did. But so it goes. Well, thank you. Thanks to the chapter for hosting this tonight. I'm glad to be here. My name is Kobe King, and the reason I'm running is because I am concerned about a number of things that are directly connected to the club. And those things are making sure that we have a robust outings program, making sure that the Sierra Club continues to promote transit, and also to try to use the skills and connections that I've developed over 20 years in politics to try to make those things happen. I have been an environmentalist all my life, an active Sierra Club member for over a quarter century. And if elected, I will work very hard to preserve our open spaces and move forward client-friendly policies through activism, coalition building, and outings. For 24 years, since I first climbed Mount Islip in the Angeles National Forest, I've been devoted to climbing peaks, especially on the 100 Peak section and the Lower Peaks Committee list. And I'm actually very excited that I'm going to finish the HPS list in just a few weeks. So that's pretty exciting. Yes, on Mount San Jacinto. Over those years, I've become deeply convinced that maintaining a robust and well-managed outings program is critical to maintaining many of the club's missions to preserve and protect the environment. For many, seeing our local mountains and being surprised and amazed at their diversity and beauty is the first step to preserving these special places from the ravages of development and climate change. In putting those beliefs into action, I was elected to the HPS Management Committee back in 2013. I was immediately elected vice chair of MCOM and served as either chair or vice chair for the next 8 years. I left MCOM at the end of last year as the only 4-time chair in HPS history, and so I do have a history of leadership.
Okay, Kobe, that's your 2 minutes.
Am I out of time?
That's
okay.
Your 2 minutes.
All right, well, thanks. I look forward to expanding on these comments a little later. Thank you.
Thank you, Kobe. Our next speaker is David Morrow, and you have 2 minutes. You're muted.
Thank you for holding this forum tonight. I had to unmute. That was my first 30 seconds. I've been a Sierra Club member for 35 years. I joined mainly in the beginning for out of national concerns back in the Reagan administration. And since then, I've kind of moved from national to more local. And since we moved to Santa Clarita in 2000, 22 years ago, I joined the Santa Clarita group and eventually became the chair, was chair for 11 years, stepped down back in 2017, and I've been the outings chair since. My interests are in outings, hikes. We do a lot of hikes locally. We've done a lot of, some peak bagging. Also, we do a lot of conservation and political work out here in Santa Clarita. It's been a very active area. I think we've done a really good job. I really want to work on collegiality and teamwork on the XCOM. I think it's really important that we all stick together during this difficult time because we're undergoing a number of crises. The most significant one is climate change. But I think we really need to work together and put our differences aside and really just kind of work together. I work as a family physician in Santa Clarita. I'm a veteran. I'm interested in veterans getting involved with the Sierra Club. I go to the Outings Management Committee meetings. I'm not really an official member, but I've been interested in that for the past several months. And I'm going to close up quickly. And I'm really running to get our outings program kept robust, and also make sure that it gets involved with conservation and political issues, because there's been kind of a disconnect. So that's basically it. Thanks.
Thank you, David, for keeping time. Our next speaker is Diana Pena. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Marlene. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And thank you so much for hosting this to all of our wonderful hosts. And hi, everyone, fellow candidates. Hi, my name is Diana Pena, or Diana Pena. I am happy to be here and honored to be running for XCOM once again. I've been serving for the past 2 years now, and actually this month have now been chair officially for a year. And so I'm just really excited to get the opportunity to continue some of the work that I've started here, especially bringing a lot of resources to our local chapter, and really working towards inviting and welcoming new members, and also working on bringing new donations and just bringing energy into the executive committee and really continuing to work on that. So I'm looking forward to our questions this evening, and hope to oh, sorry if I'm cutting out a little, but I hope to be considered for your vote. And again, I'm honored to be here with this group. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana, for staying under time. Our next speaker is David Hackey. You have 2 minutes for introductions.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate all the work that went into organizing this candidate forum. And just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I was first involved in the Sierra Club in high school when I attended a Sierra Club service trip in the Eastern Sierra, and kind of fell in love with the outdoors, fell in love with the Sierra Club. I'm a physician. I'm a life member of the Sierra Club. For the last 12 years, I've been serving as chair of the West Los Angeles group of the Angeles chapter. I'm an O-rated outings leader. I've led hundreds of hikes in the Santa Monica Mountains. In terms of my conservation work, I lead the Clean Break team, which is about the just and equitable transition from dirty fossil fuels to clean renewable energy. I'm proud that we've had an integral role in the Culver City's 2021 decision to stand up to the oil industry and phase out operations in the Inglewood oil field. I received the Phil Bernays Service Plaque, which is a service award conferred by the Angeles chapter in 2017. And in 2021, I was very grateful and very honored to receive the William Colby Volunteer Leadership Award for volunteer service. And, you know, this won't be the first time that I'll be on the Angeles chapter's executive committee. I was a member of the executive committee from 2010 to 2013 and served as the vice chair of the executive committee in 2013. I would be honored and grateful to receive your vote.
Thank you, David. Our next speaker is Kin G. You have 2 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marlene. Appreciate your organizing this candidates forum. My name is Kin G, and I'm a neurologist by trade and training. In 2005 and 2006, when there was accidental release of methane and hydrogen sulfide into our Culver Crest community, I joined the Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community in Culver City. We sued the County of LA and was able to get a moratorium on oil operations from 2008 to 2011. In 2014, I joined the West LA Sierra Club, and recently we were able to lobby for the city of Culver City and the County of LA to phase out oil operations in the Inglewood oil field, which is the largest urban oil field in the United States. I then worked with the Sierra Club West LA Group Management Committee from 2019 to 21 as a voting member. We are now tasked with mitigating the adverse effects of climate change as we fight wildfires, floods, and drought all around us. You would want a climate warrior in your corner with a proven track record and the knowledge and know-how to get the job done. I'll be honored to have your support and vote as we run for the executive committee member. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Kinkin. Our next speaker is Lynn Plambeck. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm, oh, jeez. I'm Lynn Plambeck, and I'm a longtime Sierra Club member. I've held various positions in the club for off and on for many years. I've been on Angeles chapter XCOM. I currently serve on the XCOM. I've also served as chapter treasurer. I've served as conservation chair. I've served on the California XCOM, and I was last year the Southern California vice chair for Conservation Committee. And I think that's one of the things I hope to bring to and continue to bring to the XCOM is that understanding of the bureaucracy of the club, which can be a little daunting to people when they first start. I've also received several conservation awards for my work on the Santa Clara River. I received the National Service Award for that work and trying to preserve the river. And I've received the Weldon Hill Award twice at the Angeles chapter for my conservation work, which was focused mainly on the Santa Clara River and preserving water quality and water supply, water in the river itself, and stopping urban sprawl. I was one of the major fighters against the Newhall Ranch project in Santa Clarita, which is a 30,000 unit project. Luckily, it's not all built out, but pretty much would destroy the river. It's built in some of the most sensitive habitat and really would put pressure on the water supply that's would not allow the river to continue in a sustainable manner. So I've been a water warrior for a long time, and involved with that is, of course, air pollution and water quality. And along with that, I fought Chiquita Canyon landfill, which everyone knows methane is a big byproduct of landfills, and one of the worst pollutants in LA County are landfills because of their methane production. So we need all those climate warriors. I'm so glad, Chin Chin, that you're running for this office along with me. I'm very proud. And is that 2 minutes?
Lynn, yeah, you got, no, that's it. That's your 2
Okay.
minutes.
Next up is Marcia Hanscombe. 2 minutes. The floor is yours. You're muted, Marcia.
Thank you to the Elections Committee for organizing this, and thank you to everybody who's shown up to listen to us and have this conversation. My name is Marcia Hanscombe. I'm coming to you from the unceded occupied land of the Shoshone-Gabrielino Nation on the Los Angeles coast. I'm a community organizer, a writer, and trained as a communications professional. Besides the conservation work that I do regularly as a Sierra Club activist in a leadership role as a member of the XCOM, I see my job as not only making sure that our fiduciary responsibilities are handled well. I ask a lot of questions about budgets and fundraising, human resource matters, and because those are what we are obliged to do on the executive committee. But I'm also always thinking about how can I make sure that our activists have the resources they need to make sure that they have the Sierra Club fully behind them in their work. Same for outings, making sure the outings leaders are supported and not being thwarted by undue bureaucracy like unnecessary pages of waiver forms, which we have seen. So I've joined this organization about 30 years ago after reading Al Gore's book, Earth in the Balance, and then also realizing that the beautiful Bolso Chica wetlands near where I rode my bicycle almost daily was at risk for being plowed under for a massive development. But when I joined, the local activists I worked with were delightful and a great team. But then when I had to go to the support from the chapter at a meeting in Mid-Wilshire, the chapter conservation committee, and then in the executive committee, quite honestly, I did not feel welcome at all. And while I did ultimately get the support we needed, and Sierra Club agreed to sign on to a very important lawsuit that unwelcoming feeling is still here for many people coming to the chapter. I hear it all the time, and I think that we need to do more to make sure that people who come to our organization feel like they are welcome and supported.
Your time's up.
All right, Nancy Barba, you have minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm joining you today from my hotel room at the California Climate and Energy Forum. I am a director of energy efficiency and decarbonization programs. I'm a chair of the Culver City Planning Commission. I am a member of the Sierra Club West LA Group Executive Committee or Management Committee. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and I'm a first generation Mexican-American Latinx woman. I bring lived experience to stakeholder and community engagement in all of my roles. I strive to listen so people will share, and I strive to speak so people will listen. As an organizer with Culver City for More Homes, a grassroots group committed to creating new housing growth and job-rich, high opportunity communities, I advocate for equitable housing opportunities. I have served on the Sierra Club West LA Group Management Committee since I was elected in 2021. I've supported watershed health and sustainability project in the area. In my daytime work, I lead teams to deliver equitable market transformation, regional and statewide decarbonization and energy efficiency programs. My strategic funding consulting empowers local governments ranging from counties to cities to states to serve hard to reach and disadvantaged communities. I have worked on a wide range of initiatives through federal, state, utility, and local grants. And I ask today for your support to bring a vision of urban environmentalism that centers equity and social justice, values diversity, and engages all people to care for our commons and address the climate emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next speaker is not here, so David Eisenberg will present the next two, Sherry Sisson and Annalise Pineda-Klein. You have 4 minutes and 2 minutes per.
Okay, well, I hope I don't take that long. I was asked to read the statement because they were unable to make it. So I'll start with Sherry Sisson. For the last 10 years, I've hiked with Sierra Club and led hikes. For 3 years, I have been chair of the Outings Committee of the Orange County chapter of the Sierra Club. I would like to encourage all people to come out and hike with the Sierra Club. Getting out, walking in wild places is great fun, improves fitness, and is good for our mental health. Hiking shows us why we need to protect open spaces. The Sierra Club teaches safety, has a leave no traces ethos, and advocates for a love of these open spaces. People need opportunities to experience being out in nature, to fall in love with wild places. I encourage members to participate in Sierra Club outings. That should be well under 2 minutes, but that's what I have. And for Annalise Klein, her statement is, as your candidate for XCOM, I am committed to protecting our environment and creating a more inclusive and diverse membership. My record of environmental justice work as a Sierra Club leader and beyond is proof of my impact and dedication. In 2021, I served as co-chair of the chapter's communications committee. I co-led a team across multiple platforms and established consistent processes from scratch, dramatically increasing our content creation and reach and broadening our target audiences. In my job, I am a product designer, which entails problem solving and developing sustainable solutions. I have government's experience, having recently completed a board term for WCLA, where I served as secretary. I am ready to dedicate myself to the XCOM and hope I can count on your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Our first question, everyone has 2 minutes to answer. Our first question is on equity. Please describe the extent to which your approach to environmental issues is intersectional. Our first person is Marcia Hanscombe, 2 minutes.
Thanks. Of course, that's something that we are at the Sierra Club are committed to inclusion, diversity, to make sure that we are, again, back to feeling welcome in the club. And I want to urge everyone to read the Ramona Strategies report that came out from the national organization last year, if you have not yet read it, because it rang true for me for a lot of the cultural change that we need in this organization. And I practice this outside of the club as well as in the club, making sure that we outreach to communities that haven't maybe traditionally had opportunities to spend time in nature, as well as to work as allies with us. And here's an example is that one of the agencies that wants to do a project that is not so great in our area, we reached out before they even thought of it to communities of color, saying, you know, these people have been left out of the conversation and left out of not just the conversation, but any of the thinking about what should really happen on this land. And so we made sure that we had people that that we knew needed to feel embraced by the club, and they're our allies, and we go to them to ask what they want first, and particularly the tribal leaders who have been often left out of the picture of what should happen on our public lands. So I think all of those aspects of activism are just as important as showing up at a hearing, if not more.
Thank you, Marcia. Our next person is Lynn Plambeck. Same question. Please describe the extent to which your approach to environmental issues is intersectional. Lynn Plambeck, you have the floor, 2 minutes.
Well, I think environmental issues by their very nature are intersectional, and without inclusivity, I need a glass of water already, I guess. It's not possible to get things accomplished. And some of the issues that I've worked on, for instance, I've been an elected director of on a water district board for a long time. And we had serious water contamination issues in our area that particularly affected women. Ammonium perchlorate, which causes thyroid damage and affects fetuses and young children particularly. So of course, the way to go was to outreach to the moms and talk about this, because if women understand what the issues are, women can really make a difference. My other work that I did on the Chiquita Canyon landfill was working with the community of Val Verde and the Val Verde Civic Association and the other groups in the area. And it was a Hispanic neighborhood that really was thrown into the CEQA process without knowing how to handle it or what to do, or you know, what that big document is and what the procedures were going to be in. You know, I went out and tried to make sure that they were aware of the CEQA process, but also I was appalled that here is a community that's 56% Spanish speaking and the documents weren't provided in Spanish. So we really worked with them to file complaints with the state, and they ended up getting signage and project summaries all in Spanish. So and it's a kind of thing where you really have to be inclusive. It's not a question of how to do it, it's a must be done, because
Your time is up, Lynn.
otherwise you can't get the issues accomplished.
Thank you, Lynn. Our next person is David Hackey. Same question. Please describe the extent to which your approach to environmental issues is intersectional. The floor is yours, David. You're muted.
There we go. Well, thank you. A huge shout out to Nancy Barba, who's on the forum this evening and running for the chapter executive committee. As you heard, she's a member of the West LA Group's executive committee. She's an extremely talented and knowledgeable person when it comes to urban environmentalism and would be a great member of the chapter's executive committee. And she's an example of what we need to do in our chapter to be more inclusive, to be intersectional, to really have an impact on the things that matter. My favorite quote is by Hop Hopkins. Racism is killing the planet. If people are subjected to environmental racism because they are considered disposable, then the planet will be disposable also. In our work through the Clean Break team, we interface with Stand LA. The principle behind Stand LA is they take the most powerful voices, which are the women, the people of color, the marginalized communities, and they bring them before elected officials and support their voices to make sure that the elected officials make the right choices. The Sierra Club is an ally of Stand LA. Clean Break, as part of the Sierra Club, is an ally. And what that means is we support them. We let them take the lead. We amplify their voices. That's what intersectionalism is to me. And that's what we live by.
Thank you, David Hackey. Same question, Kobe King. Please describe the extent to which your approach to environmental issues is intersectional. You have 2 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you. As I said, kind of one of the main reasons I'm running today is, or this year, is because of my emphasis on outings, and I do tend to see things through the outings perspective. As others have mentioned, outings are very important, not just because it kind of shows people the things that we want to preserve, but here in Los Angeles, one of the most diverse places on earth, it's incumbent upon the Sierra Club not just to give resources to outings leaders and to the outings program generally, but to have a special emphasis on making sure that places who are maybe park poor or maybe haven't had the experience of getting into our local mountains have those opportunities. In addition, from a political point of view, or from a kind of non-outings point of view, I have spent a lot of my professional life in working on transit issues, in working on affordable housing, and working on infill development. And I think it's just super important that the Sierra Club continues to support those things. I've been a member of the Transportation Committee for many years, and I'm pleased that the club has provided or has supported sustainable solutions in transportation in the Los Angeles area, and I look forward to continuing to work on those issues as well. So, I mean, to me, it seems like what we have to continue to do is just to make sure that we're reaching out to all the various communities in Los Angeles, giving them opportunities to experience nature, some in our local mountains, some perhaps in local parks. And by doing that and providing additional resources for those folks, I think that that we can make a better Los Angeles and a stronger environmental movement in LA.
Thank you, Kobe. The next person is David Morrow, and our question is, please describe the extent to which your approach to environmental issues is intersectional. 2 minutes, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the key is getting out and meeting people. I think one problem with the Sierra Club, and I've been thinking about this lately, is that the word club has an exclusive sound to it. And I think some people might be a little turned off by that. I remember hearing some group of folks talking that they thought Sierra Club was all Republicans, kind of like a country club. So I think we need to get out and meet people. You know, we do a lot of tabling in Santa Clarita. And this past weekend, we had the city had its river rally. And it was so many people from so many diverse backgrounds there. And we engaged them. We got a lot of interest in the Sierra Club. They're going to come on our hikes. You know, I think that's the first thing to do. A lot of young people. Yeah, I'm just amazed at how many young people really care about the environment now, because they see that their future is at grave risk. And the millennials and Generation Z, they're the most diverse generations we've ever had in this country. And I think if we get them on board, we're going to have a lot of improvement in our equity and intersection and inclusivity. I'm just really optimistic that I think this younger generation is going to be great. So thanks.
David. The next person is Nancy Barba. Please describe the extent to which your approach to environmental issues is intersectional. The floor is yours, 2 minutes.
Thank you. My approach to sustainability, environmental issues, is 100% intersectional. I don't know any other way of being. I'm a daughter of a single mom, first generation American. I have lived in disadvantaged communities most of my life. I have been told my whole life that I'm not qualified to do what I do. So I think climate justice, it's housing justice, it's racial justice, it's transportation justice. It is all intersectional. Today at the forum I mentioned earlier in my opening, Climate Action and Adaptation Forum, I moderated a panel called Promotoras as partners in advancing clean energy in disadvantaged communities. This is what I live, breathe, work. This is what I do. It is all interconnected. If we don't realize that paying people minimum wage and above minimum wage so they can live in the communities where they work, and if we don't make the connection between paying people livable wages and make the connection in infill development and make the connection in healthcare for all and family planning, right to family planning for women. If we're not doing all of that, we are not doing anything. So I would remind everyone that first and foremost, if we're not seeing how it is all related, then we're not doing our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next person is Diana Pena. Please describe the extent to which your approach to environmental issues is intersectional. 2 minutes. The floor is yours, Diana.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for such inspiring responses. I think for me, I just truly believe that we cannot achieve our mission without being intersectional and inclusive and really approaching our mission in such a way. And I also feel really lucky that we now have our core values to help us lean and learn those to help us approach that mission in such a way that really are going to help us be that club that is inclusive and welcoming, and hopefully get rid of that stigma that the word club comes with, and that maybe even some of our history has helped to perpetuate. So, and I think with that really comes work also from within. And so that's why I think those core values are so important. And to me, that means even also ensuring that our volunteer positions are inclusive and welcoming and accessible to people, especially people that might not have as much time, as others, people that would have to work full time. And maybe that's coming from my own experience, and not just my own lived experience, but the experience that I saw my mom go through growing up, having to work multiple jobs, and also being a first generation Mexican American, and growing up in East Los Angeles that has prevalent environmental justice issues. I truly believe that if we're taking care of our most marginalized communities, we are really achieving our mission. So hopefully I can help continue that work here. And so, yeah, love this question.
Thank you, Diana. Our next person is Kinkinji. Same question. Please describe the extent to which your approach to environmental issues is intersectional. The floor is yours, Kinkin.
Thank you, Marlene. I'm an immigrant who's been in this country for 50 odd years. So the people I grew up with and the people that I hang out with these days are fellow immigrants, fellow females. So you have diversity, equity issues that you're working with. And I'm also a member of the Culver City Women's Club, Heart of LA Democratic Club, which is a feminist democratic organization. So as a environmental advocate, we automatically act as ambassadors when we're in these situations with our fellow club members. And I'll be sure to bring along more women and women of color to join the Sierra Club in the future. Also, I wanted to mention that I did my neurology residency at LA County USC before the establishment of the USC private medical center. And as you know, LA County USC Medical Center is located at Boyle Heights. So I've always kept up with the environmental issues surrounding Boyle Heights. And as we all know, we had the battery company that leached a lot of lead into the environment, and we had concern about kids with regard to lead poisoning. So those are all very salient issues for me. And lead, of course, is a neurotoxin. So again, that issue resonates with me and for me at for all different age levels. So as a neurologist, these are also, I should have mentioned that the methane and hydrogen sulfide that's emitted by the Inglewood oil field, and all oil fields for that matter, are neurotoxins. And these are serious issues for a neurologist. And I would be, thank you, fighting it with all your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next question is on membership. Our first person is Nancy Barba. What are your strategies to get more members involved in our activities and campaigns? How will you retain membership and attract new members?
I think there is a lot of youth organizing happening that I think this club should be engaging. I think every one of us is an ambassador of what Sierra Club can be, and how it could bring in more youth membership. I think an understanding that volunteer time is leisure time is a gift that not many of us have. An understanding that a lot of things that all of us love to do is critical, and we need to get members and new members engaged and the community engaged where they are and in what they're doing, and provide deep community engagement that centers those that we want to prioritize, that are going to be the most impacted by all of these things that everyone here has listed, right? From oil fields to pollution. So it is really being an entity that listens and engages and empowers, because we need to move across the spectrum from informing and consulting to really providing ownership to communities over the commons, over their environmental engagement. So youth, people of color, and all underrepresented members in this group should be out there reaching out to those communities and listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next person is Kobe King. What are your strategies to get more members involved in our activities and campaigns? And how will you retain memberships and attract new members? Kobe, the floor is yours, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think that that there has to be kind of at least a two-pronged approach to membership, both retention and bringing new people into the club. Certainly, and a lot of people have already mentioned this, bringing in disadvantaged communities can be a challenge because of the longtime reputation of the club as kind of a bastion of folks who are not like them. I think one of the strategies that can be utilized is to reach out to the community-based organizations and go directly with them, and maybe see if there's a way to work on projects together. Another possibility, since I do see things through an Outings lens, is to talk to these community-based organizations, and there are great ones all through Los Angeles and Orange County, and see if there's a way to work on outings with them and bring some of their activists on outings, and in that way understand kind of what their concerns are. Another issue is that I think we know that, especially in disadvantaged communities, that the even relatively nominal fees that the Sierra Club charges as membership, perhaps there are ways that can be addressed through some kind of a waiver or some kind of a fund that can be established to help defray those costs. At the same time, I think that for longer term members or people who have been around for a long time, continuing to provide value, making sure that they understand what the Sierra Club is providing for them and how we're working on the various policy actions that we're working on, and with good communication, is a way of making sure that people understand what they're getting with their membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Kobe. Our next person is Kinkin G. Same question. What are your strategies to get more members involved in our activities and campaigns? And how will you retain memberships and attract new members? Kinkin, the floor is yours, 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Marlene. I think that, we've been criticized before as a top-down organization. I think it'd be helpful if we can build our image as a bottom-up or a grassroots organization from the ground up as well. So I think that if we can partner with high school students or even youth of the California Conservation Corps, these kids are troubled youths that spend a regimented amount of time with the California Conservation Corps, digging ditches, getting physical, hiking, chopping trees, etc. Building infrastructure in our community, green infrastructure, so to speak. So these kids are pretty much on the pathway to a lifetime of hiking and environmental conservation. So I think they would be a great group to partner with. Also, if we could establish mentorships and internship partnerships between the older members of the club and high school students as interns, maybe during summer short internships, I think these kids will become the next leaders of the Sierra Club over a period of time, and they will learn how we engage in politics, how we organize our outings, how we do our fundraising. So I think they'll get a wide range of experience trying to become a full-fledged Sierra Club member. So I would promote these ideas if I were to become a member of the executive committee. So thank you.
Thank you, Kinkin. Our next person is Marcia Hanscombe. What are your strategies to get more members involved in our activities and campaigns? And how will you retain membership and attract new members? 2 minutes. The floor is yours, Marcia.
Thanks. Well, I've seen a big change in our chapter over the 30 years I've been involved. When I was first involved, there were, like I said, I was the chair of the Preserve Bolsa Chica Task Force at first. But most of the club, most of the regional groups, which we have throughout Los Angeles and Orange counties, did not even have conservation committees, and some of them still don't. Some of them might send a representative to our conservation committee, but they don't have a committee unto themselves. And when people are being asked to put money into a membership, it's got to be meaningful to them. So they will, in my experience, people are willing to join and get involved and put money in when they know it's something in their own backyard, something that they are very concerned about, whether it's the Exide battery situation that Kinkin brought up earlier, or whether it's wanting to protect a special parkland in your area. So we really need to get the regional groups more engaged with our conservation issues, because that's what's going to help us really bring people into our organization. We are a grassroots organization, but we don't have, when I started, most of the regional groups, their whole thing was outings. We've always had a really robust outings program, but most of their meetings were travelogues, people showing their slides from Argentina or wherever they just had come back from, instead of, what are we going to do about this horrible thing that is ruining our creek. We've got too much trash coming down the stream, and how are we going to deal with that? So some of it is leadership, and I think we need more leadership coming from the XCOM focused on conservation, so that we can help grow the membership.
Thank you, Marcia. Our next person is David Hackey. Same question. What are your strategies to get more members involved in our activities and campaigns? And how will you retain memberships and attract new members? 2 minutes, the floor is yours, David.
Well, thank you. It's a fabulous question. And this is, how we figure out how the Sierra Club continues as an organization. You've heard a few people speak tonight about making the Sierra Club a more welcoming place, and that's really key. Let me tell you about my experience. I was asked by the National Sierra Club to create a committee called the Leader Recruitment Committee to create opportunities for more open and equitable ways of attracting new volunteers. And so working together with a group of Sierra Club leaders from across the country, we put together a portal called Volunteer Connection. You can get there from the Angeles chapter's volunteer page. And what it is a way to essentially just post a volunteer opportunity. So if you go there, you'll be able to click on the Clean Break Team. You'll be able to click on the West LA group. And I urge, other Angeles chapter and anyone who's a leader in the Sierra Club to utilize this portal. We've attracted dozens and dozens of new volunteers this way. But it's one thing, your question had 2 parts, and I appreciate the 2 parts. The first one is to attract, but the second one is to retain. And that is actually the more difficult part. What we do is we make a personal connection with the volunteer. A lot of my meetings are held in my home, and where we share meals together and we sit together to create community and form a bond with the volunteers. And to me, that's the best way to retain a new volunteer.
Thank you, David. Our next person is Lynn Plambeck. Same question. What are your strategies to get more members involved in our activities and campaigns? And how will you retain memberships and attract new members?
I agree with Marcia that the answer is in the regional groups. Folks want to get involved with issues in their own backyard that they care about. And that's how you can recruit new members. If there's a local campaign that people are really upset about a particular project, or they want to create a community garden, or they want to protect a creek or do cleanups on a creek, that's the way that you will grab them and get them into the Sierra Club, along with hikes. I mean, outings should not be diminished at all. That's a really, really important inroad into the Sierra Club, just getting out in nature and realizing that you want to protect it. And, I want to say that one of our most incredible programs that we have is Inspiring Connections to the Outdoors, as a way of getting folks from urban areas out into nature and having them understand about nature. And it's unfortunate that they are having the awards at the same time, because the woman that's leading it for Los Angeles chapter is getting a national award tonight. And then retaining activists, I think, is a lot about welcoming and support and listening to their issues and trying to help them with their issues. I think sometimes people bring issues to the Sierra Club and they just sort of get ignored. It's really, really important to listen and to help to the extent possible. We used to have a grassroots manual, and one of the first rules in it was linking and leveraging. So you would go and talk to other groups and meet other groups and tell them about yourself and what you're trying to do and how can you help each other. And I think that we aren't doing that as much as we used to. So we need to start doing that again, and we need to be more welcoming once we get all these young people in.
Thank you, Lynn. Our next person is David Morrow. Same question. What are your strategies to get more members involved in our activities and campaigns? And how will you retain membership and attract new members? The floor is yours.
Well, I agree with much of what everyone else has said. I think we all kind of know what needs to be done, it's just how to get there. Yeah, I think we need to make the Sierra Club, fun and interesting and relevant. And I think the big growth in the Sierra Club over the years has been due to some sort of crisis that's come along. In the early 1980s, it was the Reagan administration and James Watt, and there's a huge influx of members into the Sierra Club. And then locally here in Santa Clarita, 30 years ago, there was the Ellesmere Canyon proposed dump, which is going to be the largest landfill, and huge growth in the local Sierra Club because of that. And that went on for years and years with a very active group, and it's still active, but it's diminished a little bit because we don't have any big issues which drive us. So, currently I think climate change is the big issue. And I think with high school kids, I think who we should be working with are high school kids, because they enthusiasm, they have some time to get involved, and it's a great interest to them. So I think mentoring young people is really important. I was this past weekend, I ran into this group of kids from Canyon Country High with Eco Chicos t-shirts. That's their environmental group. And they were really enthusiastic, and they were interested in the Sierra Club. And, I think we're going to be able to work with them. So, that's what we have to do. And I like I said before, I'm optimistic that we can do it.
Thank you, David. Our last person is Diana Pena, and our question is, what are your strategies to get more members involved in our activities and campaigns, and how will you retain membership and attract new members?
I feel like I'm going to say this for all the questions, but I love these questions. So this one's a multiple question. So I guess for me, it really means, how do we become the organization that people think of to call when facing environmental injustices? How do we help nurture some people's perspective of the outdoors, understanding that it's not perceived as a safe place for everyone, and so just nurturing that relationship, and also I feel like I also say this a lot, but how do we become that home for everyone's activism, for environmental activism? And so I think to me, all of that kind of goes back to how are we going to be invited to a lot of these communities? So really, again, leaning on Hamas principles, our core values, meeting people where they are. I think I heard someone else say that, couple people. And so I love that. I love actually just hopefully having done that in my own experiences, but then also making sure that the spaces that we're inviting people to are, again, welcoming and safe and accessible. So also just as part of that, I love hyping people up for their work. So as an example of that, I nominated Godinez High School in Santana for an award. And that's part of just being celebratory and really showing that we not just are welcoming of young people, that we care for them. So really advocating for the issues that they really care about, like climate change. And so I just hope to continue to do that through my work at City Hike, our political committees, and just inviting friends and family. So yay.
Thank you, Diana. Our next question, our first person is Marcia Hanscombe. How will you revive our outings program? 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, I think our outings program is there. I do know that it's sort of, there's some uncertainty because of the 2 years we had of the pandemic. And I think I would go to some of our experts in the outings arena, because some of them have done some really creative things to try and make sure that outings are not just gone away. But I think that they're the experts. We have a great outings management committee and people who have been in the club a long time who really know what it is that attracts people. And that I would go to them. They're the experts. And, that's kind of the way I approach how I govern on the executive committee, is If it's an issue related to fundraising, you go to the fundraising committee. If it's an issue related to the political committee, you go to the political committee. If it's an issue related to outings, they're the experts, and conservation has experts as well. And, we all need to work more collaboratively together and learn from each other, and maybe have some sessions where we're not just in these silos. But I do think that those, and that's something we could make some more space for perhaps. But I think that people like Kobe and David Morrow, they're the ones that know the most on this call about how our outings programs work. Maybe David Hockey too. I know he started a lot in our outings program. So what is it that would bring your friends back into the outings arena now that the pandemic is sort of over, almost over, sort of?
Thank you, Marcia. Our next person is David Hackey. Speaking of, how will you revive our outings programs? You have 2 minutes.
Wow. Well, listen, I want to start by giving a shout out to Kobe because he may not remember this, but he led a hike that I participated in to the Twin Peaks. And it always left an impression on me, what a fabulous outings leader he is. And so my first answer is, get more people to hike with Kobe. But we have a jewel here in the Angeles chapter, which is our outings program, and has many facets. And I think, finding ways, as I think, Marcia was sort of suggesting, to integrate the outings program with the other things that we do, I think would be, really important. So the wilderness travel course is an amazing resource. And it is an incredible experience. I'm a graduate of the 2013 wilderness travel course, and it changed my life because it gave me the ability to go out and backpack and be comfortable out in the wilderness. We need to encourage and expand that kind of program. We need to have a range of different hikes and outings, not just for the people that can climb mountains, but also for the people who want to go on a easier hike, on level ground, an urban hike, visit an oil field and make them as accessible as possible. So we need to expand, we need to diversify, we need to be able to reach everyone who can benefit from, the amazing place that LA and Orange counties really is.
Thank you, David. Our next person is Lynn Plambeck. How will you revive our outings program? The floor is yours, Lynn.
Well, I do think we need to ask the experts, and I'm not an expert on outings. I go on them, but I'm not a hike leader. I've focused my work on conservation. But I think also one thing I've promoted for a long time is more intersectionality between outings programs and conservation, maybe doing more hikes to areas we're trying to save and talk about why it's important. And of course, nature is a big answer to climate change. Saving habitat and saving wildlands is a way of addressing climate change, and it's important that people know that through hikes. So there's 2 issues with hikes. There's local hikes, which I don't know that they are particularly suffering. I know our group out in Santa Clarita does great hikes all the time. I know Santa Monica Task Force does great hikes, but I know some of our outings that are further afield with travel are really having problems. And part of that is restrictions that National has put on both local hikes and signing people up, and how you sign people up and what forms they have to fill out. And it's very burdensome in some cases. And I think that issue needs to be addressed. I don't know how to address it. I know we've tried the hiking folks have tried with national, but I think that that's part of the reasons that our hikes, that our outings have gotten into more trouble in their efforts to return than they should have.
Thank you, Lynn. Our next person is David Morrow. Same question. How will you revive our outings program? 2 minutes.
Well, yeah, I guess maybe it needs some revival. I mean, certainly everything shut down during the pandemic, but it seems like it's much more active, maybe almost back to normal in some ways. You know, I've led a few outings up to Mammoth and other places, but most of the hikes and outings that I do and in Santa Clarita are local. And I think there are a couple of issues. One is that people who used to go on our hikes know our hikes and know all the hiking areas. They just hike on their own. So they don't need to hike with the Sierra Club anymore. So we need to find a way to make these hikes relevant to them. And I think that comment from Lynn about conservation, we should really push conservation issues with our hikes, because probably every hike we do has some sort of conservation element. And we're also suffering from fewer hike leaders. And that's, I think, goes back to retention. We have a lot of people who get interested, but they don't stay around long enough to become a hike leader, an outings leader. So we need to work on that. I'm not sure I have a real answer for that right now. I haven't really thought about that much. Well, I have thought about it, but I don't have a great answer at this moment. But that's basically make the hikes relevant with some other issues, especially conservation. And we need to revise, really get our hike leaders. We just need more hike leaders. I think other groups have that same issue. So that's
Oh, sorry. Thank you, David.
That's it. That's me. Thanks.
Awesome. Our next person is Kin Ji. How will you revive our out program? The floor is yours. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Marlene. I think I would agree with Marcia in deferring the referring the topic to the outing leaders, because they have more experience than I do. And I'm more of a political animal rather than a hiking animal, but I know that we can do both within Sierra Club. And with the little hiking that I've done with Sierra Club, I really enjoyed the city hike last year, and trying to do a dual hiking with my friends and then taking them around Culver City, now that we have the Park to Playa connection from the Inglewood oil field to the beach. So, that's been a real attraction to do urban hiking just in our backyard. And this also allows us to preach and promote the phasing out of oil operations in the Inglewood oil field. So it can serve a dual purpose of carrying out our mission of conservation, cleaning up the environment, and also promoting the mission of a healthier environment and the healthier bodies, because a lot of us became homebound during the pandemic. And now that we've been doubly boosted and doubly vaxxed, I think we are more confident in leaving our home. So I would defer to the experts on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Kin. Our next person is Nancy Barba. How will you revive our outings program? 2 minutes, the floor is yours.
So I will echo what others have said so far. Definitely consult our outings leaders, and also echoing what other people are saying about relevancy. I also think there's a great opportunity going with kind of urban environmentalism to do multimodal outings that really highlight some of what our cities have done for sustainability, especially after COVID, how a lot of our communities maybe saw more community building and building places and spaces where community could meet up. So I think there's a really great opportunity to re-engage and also serve the other purpose that was asked about earlier about recruitment and retention. I think making our hikes relevant with more urban hikes. And I will say that Outings was one of the main reasons I joined Sierra Club way back when I was in college. At the same time, it was one of the reasons I did not feel I belonged, because a lot of the outings are expensive. And unless you have access to the kind of training and the kind of gear, you don't necessarily feel like it's your thing. So I will say that having outings at all levels, personally, I love urban hikes. I also love nature, but having a lot of intersectionality with bike riding, with mass transit, I think would be a great opportunity to be more inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next person is Diana Pena. How will you revive our outings program? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And just so as to not be repetitive, also just commending our outings programs. But I will add, just in my short experience, that as I've met other people from the country, volunteers, staff, they all have consistently really been impressed with our outings here at Angeles. And even during and right now, you know, throughout this pandemic, we still have somehow remained strong, even though, you know, not as strong as we would like to be, especially with what I know we can do, and being so impressed by our outings leaders. And so I think for me, speaking of those conferences, CCL being one of them, I think really voicing or helping to voice any concerns that our local outings leaders have to our national resources, our national board, and helping to bring a lot, not just, you know, not to be hindered, but to bring resources actually and be supported by national. So hopefully we can all work together and help, you know, really re-strengthen that. And so maybe when we do that, we can help by merging our policy work with to support outings as well. You know, for example, like increasing public transportation, increasing access to our natural spaces, increasing green spaces in urban areas, and then also just thinking creatively to invite new audiences, like, I don't know, maybe roller skaters. Speaking for myself. So yeah, I just think that we really we can inspire people to join our movement by providing these meaningful experiences in the outdoors. So yeah.
Thank you. So our last person is Kobe King. How will you revive our outings program? 2 minutes, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, David Hockey, for remembering that Twin Peaks hike. That was a great hike. It was my O rating provisional, actually. So I'm particularly pleased that you thought I did a good job on that hike. So outings is certainly one of my passions, and my involvement in the lower peaks and the 100 peaks is reflective of that. And it is the main reason that I've been involved. And but I also think it's a great gateway, as I said earlier, to more of the activism that I think everyone on this call values. In looking at the outings program, and I agree with Diana that Angeles chapter still has one of the strongest programs in the United States, but it was stronger. The pandemic dealt it a pretty severe blow. And while it is coming back, it's not where it could be or should be. And one of the reasons for that, and others have mentioned this as well, is that the bureaucratic impositions that National has put on us are frankly unreasonable. And one of the things that I would like to see is to try to work with both our leadership at the chapter to persuade National that some of the things that they've imposed on our outings and just the attitude that maybe outings isn't as important as it used to be is something that I think needs to be changed. When you look at outings, what makes a strong outings program? You really need two things. You need leaders, because without leaders, you don't have outings, and those leaders need to be trained. And I'm very thankful for the Leadership Training Committee. I'm very thankful for the Wilderness Travel course that David mentioned. We need more resources to support the recruitment and training of leaders. And we need, getting back to intersectionality, we need to get into these other places as well. Just 10 more seconds, because this is my my passion. is the other thing we need is better publicity of the hikes themselves. The demise of the printed schedule, while I completely understand and support, we've gone all electronic as well at HPS. We haven't done a good enough job in making sure that we get the word out about the outings that are available and the variety of outings that are out there. So that's kind of my views on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kobe. In the interest of time, we're going to go to closing statements, but we'll give candidates 2 minutes. Our first person is Nancy Barba. You have 2 minutes for closing statement. The floor is yours. You're muted.
Glad to hear it went up to 2 minutes, but I think mine will be closer to a minute per earlier guidance. So, first I want to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and it is a great privilege to be able to do this kind of work. So I want to recognize that it's a privilege to be able to even be considered for these kind of positions, and I really appreciate that. I recognize that the equity work that Sierra Club has done in the recent years and would love to build upon that work. I think the XCOM race is about power, like any political and election race is about power, and about who has the power on centering needs and whose pain or needs are centered. I think many articles, I don't even need to quote them because there's many, have detailed the history of environmental organizations. And decades of environmental advocacy has a shared history with exclusionary politics. Our founder, John Muir, felt a union with animals and plants that was admirable. But a lot of his characterizations of Native Americans and other non-white peoples were much less paternalistic. And we need to remember that that's our history. So I hope to have your vote. But however, if you don't decide to vote for me and you vote for others, I ask that you please consider voting for people that are going to be centering the needs of those closest to the climate change and environmental harm. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Our next person, closing statements for 2 minutes, is Marcia Hanscombe. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm really glad you just mentioned climate change, Nancy, because that's one of the things I think we haven't talked about enough here today. We're in a climate emergency, and that ought to be front and center with almost everything we do here. A year and a half ago, when I saw on our agenda all the different committees for our conservation committee, I said, why do we have no one chairing the climate action team? Usually we're approving all of the people who are going to be the chairs. And they said, well, there's no one that wants to do it right now. Okay, well, that was not acceptable to me. So I got into action thinking, and people started saying, oh, well, this person could try and revive it, or this person. And I said, no, let's think out of the box. And so I thought about someone I knew who was a powerhouse, who used to work on the national staff and who wasn't a member of the club anymore. And her name's Ara Vasquez. She's now on our executive committee. But at the time she wasn't in the club. And I said, I think we need to try and get her activated. I went to our senior chapter director and he said, great idea. Let's work on it. And I feel really good about the fact that I helped nurture us having a climate action team again, finally. Finally, we have a climate action team at the Sierra Club Angeles chapter. And while we had a clean break committee working on some parts of things related to climate, there's a lot of other issues that they don't take on. And so I'm really grateful Autumn agreed to do that. And she has got a hugely vibrant committee now. And I think that those are the sorts of things we need to do to try and bring again people of color who are into leadership. All of the people I promoted last year to run on the executive committee were people of color, and I'm very grateful that we have Otto's voice there now, and Steve Dunwoody, and a number of people who just haven't, Liliana Griego, who we did not, were not leaders in the club before. We've got a really great diverse Thank you.
Time.
I see Diane is doing this.
Don't worry. Next person is Lynn Plambeck. You have 2 minutes for closing statement. The floor is yours, Lynn.
Well, the Angeles chapter is huge and it can really, really make a difference. So it's important that we really encourage new people and young people to come into the club and diversify the club. And, I think we've gotten some fairly large donations lately, and I think that's one of the ways they should be used is to really support these projects like the one I mentioned earlier about inspiring connections outdoors. I mean, that's if we could do more of that in high schools, in youth groups. So many high schools have environmental clubs, but we really need to get out and do more of that. Sometimes I feel like we have these just really intense meetings and we don't get as much activism done as we should. And I'd just like to help more activism happen and see how we can promote that.
Thank you, Lynn. Our next person is King Kinji, and you have 2 minutes for closing statements. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marlene. As a physician scientist, you can count on me to make data-driven decisions with input from the grassroots to move our conversation forward. Because I am a member of the Heart of LA Democratic Club, which is a feminist organization, Democratic Club, and Culver City Women's Club, as well as the Americans for Democratic Action, I'll be sure to bring more women and women of color to join the Sierra Club of the future. To advance equity in the Angeles chapter, I think that if we were to partner with the youth of the California Conservation Corps, we would be in a better position to increase diversity, inclusivity, and equity in the ranks of our future Sierra Club members. I should mention, last but not least, I am also running for Culver City Council, and whenever I get a chance, I do advance the concept of transit-oriented development, which is one of the positions that is advanced by the Sierra Club, so that we can cut down on greenhouse gases. So I'm always being an ambassador of Sierra Club concepts into our community. So you can count on me to advance inclusivity, diversity in all that we do in an intersectional form. So if I were lucky to be elected to the executive committee, I would be a good ambassador for the Sierra Club and be bringing on more diverse members in the future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kinkin. Our next person is David Hockey. You have 2 minutes for closing statement. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks again to all the candidates, to the organizers, and all the viewers tonight, for your interest in making the Angeles chapter a better place. The reason I'm running for the Angeles chapter's executive committee is because the next few years will be the most important and the most challenging that our community and our planet will be facing. The Angeles chapter has the opportunity to harness the tremendous interest among young people, among people of color, among marginalized communities, and finding meaningful and effective solutions to the issues that they're facing. We need to reach out and partner with like-minded organizations to reach across boundaries and partner with those who want to work with us and find meaningful change. So part of my work has been as chair of the Community Advisory Committee of the Clean Power Alliance, which is providing 100% renewable energy to more than 20 cities across LA and Ventura counties, and is now providing that power to approximately 2 million people. So 100% renewable energy, every electron is 100% renewable. This is a really important solution. And it's the kind of thing that is really possible if people work together and think what can be made possible. But we need to be inclusive. We need to be equitable. We need to have just solutions so that are really meaningful across the board. So if we're going to change everything, we need everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David. Diana Pena, you have 2 minutes for closing statement. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I just again wanted to thank everyone for their time and just mention again how honored I am to be here with everyone and to be considered as a candidate. As a lifelong environmentalist, really feeling the urgency of the climate emergency and having had the experience of as in my youth, really have been hopeful and experiencing somewhat of a disappointment, but rather than giving into the existential crisis, I've channeled a lot of that energy and dedicated a large portion of the past 10 years trying to fight this crisis as a professional at another environmental nonprofit with 10 years of experience in directing programs and just with my passion to equity and justice and inclusion I really hope to be able to continue the work that I've done so far, and I'm so honored again to be considered for your vote. If elected, I hope to help us grow as a chapter by leading with compassion, increasing our efficiency by helping us to work across committees and with staff, local, national, and even other organizations, elected officials, all of that. So, and raising money and bringing energy, as I mentioned earlier, because I think that the more that we can provide experiences and outreach, the bigger that we will grow our most powerful asset, which is our people power. And it's the most important thing that we have, I think, in this fight. So I thank you all for your consideration of your vote. And I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you. Our next person is David Morrow. You have 2 minutes for closing statement. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I am so impressed by this slate of candidates. And I was approached 6 months ago by someone on the Outings management committee to consider running. And I said yes, because I think I can bring an interesting perspective of Outings and my long-term interest at the Sierra Club, my work as a group chair and work on the local committees out here in our community. And I really want to work on teamwork, make sure everyone works together, because we are in an existential crisis, no matter what people think. This climate crisis is just going to get worse, and we have to work together and put aside any differences we have personality-wise, and just get together and work and solve problems. And I think we can do it. So we just have to keep at it. And I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And our last person is Kobe King. Closing statements, 2 minutes. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. And thanks again to everyone who put this together and to everyone who is attending tonight. I agree with David's an incredibly impressive group of people. I think everybody knows who has been watching tonight that I'm pretty deeply committed to Outings. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. I want to talk about 2 other things in my closing statement. First, I do want to mention, and I think some of you know this, that I've worked professionally in politics. And what that means is that I get paid to get things done. And I have been working within Democratic politics my entire adult life. And I think I've been pretty effective. And I would really like to not only work on Outings, but also work on putting Sierra Club policies into effect and use my relationships with elected officials and staffers at the big agencies to do that. Last thing I wanted to mention is that for 30 years, I've been deeply involved in voter protection activities. In 1992, during the Clinton campaign, I got involved in voter protection for the California Democratic Party. By 94, I was running Southern California. And since 1996, I've essentially been in charge of voter protection for the party. I have trained literally hundreds of lawyers in California election law and have deployed them all over the state. And actually, California's model has been one for across the country. If we want to, I know Sierra Club is a nonpartisan organization, but I don't think there's any doubt when you look around the country, if you want to actually do something about climate change, you better elect Democrats. And if you're going to elect Democrats, you better protect the vote and make sure that people can get out and vote. So with that, I want to thank everyone again for coming and wish everyone a good evening.
So that concludes our candidate forum. Thank you everyone for coming. We will have another event on October 1st, where we will have another series of questions. David, do you have any statement? Or Diane?
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know that we will forward the recording of this section to the chapter digital staff, and once it's posted, that link will be up there with the candidate statements, and we'll include the link to this recording. And I believe we'll have different questions in the next forum. So you'll hear more answers and more questions. We still have all of your we never got to them because, you know, it's 20 minutes per question with 10 candidates. So, but we'll save them for the next forum, so Marlene can incorporate those. So I want to thank all the candidates for coming, and all of you who are interested enough in our chapter governments to come and pay attention to who's running. And I think this is great for our leadership. So see you all on Saturday, October 1st
Thank
for
you
an
all.
afternoon session.
Thank you all. Thanks for running.
Bye,
We appreciate
everybody.
it.
Thanks.
Good night.